Hello, you are watching the Red Zone YouTube channel. Oh my god, it's the second YouTube video, the one, the aforementioned top 10 best games of the year of college football in 2024 and 25. I am joined by my wonderful co-host, Riley Davis. College football was really good this year. We can agree on that. This was a great year, and the games definitely, they lined up. This was a good year. But what I found when I was making my list, and I don't know if you can kind of vouch with this or not, is that my top four was really easy. Everything after that was really challenging, because there was four clear-cut games that were probably the best of the year, in my opinion, and then everything else.
That's fair. I don't know. I think our top four might vary, just because I have different. I think I have different takes when it comes to what makes a game top tier for me, so they might vary.
Some ground rules before we get into this: we weren't allowed to pick our own teams, with the exception of Alabama, Georgia, because that was consensus game of the year. We were allowed to pick each other's teams. South Carolina does not feature on my list. I know Bama features twice on yours, but
really.
So our honorable mentions are just going to be Indiana and Alabama games that don't make the list. My honorable mentions, we'll say all of our honorable mentions, you'll say all yours, and then we'll go 10, then we'll go switch off of our list. So my honorable mentions: Indiana versus Maryland, the 42-28 to Indiana in week 5. This was the first game that Indiana really showed that they were actually good this year. It was pouring rain. Student section was packed for the first time in a long time at the stadium. Just a great game. Next, my honorable mentions is number 8 Indiana versus Michigan. Indiana winning 20-15 in week 11. Once again, incredible atmosphere. We got the 3:30 CBS slot. Stadium was packed. Indiana got their statement win, despite maybe thinking that we didn't play our best against a Michigan team we probably could have destroyed. Just being there was incredible. Third on my list, also from week 11, number 11 Alabama versus number 15 LSU, where we won 42-13 behind 4 rushing touchdowns from Jalen Milroe and about 200 rushing yards from him. Week 11 is probably the best sports day I've had in ages, because Indiana beat Michigan, then Alabama beat LSU, and then Atlanta United beat Inter Miami. And all of those things kind of happened in simultaneous form, which is why this game is on my honorable mentions. And then finally, you got the Cotton Bowl between Ohio State and Texas, 28-14. Just a big-time, big-feel, heavyweight game for a spot in the college football playoffs. But narrowly misses out on this list because of, in my opinion, getting overshadowed by the other semifinal game. So yeah, those are my honorable mentions.
My honorable mentions, it's all Carolina, but I would like to say my one that's not, which is season opening for Georgia Tech FSU. We did learn later that FSU is trash this year. However, it was a fun start for Tech, because it didn't seem like it was going to go that way at all, and then it did, and it was super fun. So that's why it's making my list. And then number, 3, coming in number 3, Texas A&M game, home game after it was homecoming, and it was one of our first night games. It was hype as hell. The crowd was just booming, and it was amazing. And then we won, which was great. And I was really a little worried about that game, because we tend to be a little hit or miss sometimes, and that was after I would say it was just after a turning point for Carolina. And then number 2 is Missouri here as well. Absolutely crazy stadium, close game, and also just I don't know, the stadium showed up on the seismograph for Columbia because of how much it was rumbling when Rocket Sanders ran his last touchdown of the game into the end zone. It was crazy. And then number 1 in my honorable mentions is perhaps my favorite game that I went to, or my personal favorite game of the season, which was the Clemson game, because being there and just rubbing it in every Clemson fan's face and scream singing the fight song was top 10 moment of the year.
Anyway, number 10. I'll start. I'm going West Virginia versus Pitt in week 3 with a backyard brawl. West Virginia winning 38-34. This was vibes. My list is very vibes based. but this was just vibes. This is an old school rivalry. These two teams hate the fuck out of each other. They beat the fuck out of each other. Pitt choked a 14-point lead with or West Virginia choked. Oh, sorry. West Virginia lost this game 34-38. Anyway, West Virginia choked a 10-point lead with 5 minutes left in this game. Pitt came all the way back. It was just chaos the whole game, back and forth action. No one had an edge until West Virginia had it and then promptly lost it. And it was just kind of everything that I really like about these old school rivalry games, like West Virginia Pitt, West Virginia Penn State. Just kind of old school, fun, goofy rivalry game that took place in week 3 for some reason, because we can't have nice things. But yeah, that's number 10 on my list. Very thoroughly fun football game.
My number 10 is Oregon Boise, because I don't know, just a good game, close for Boise as well. Ashton Jeanty was doing what he does best and just absolutely carrying and being like insane with 3 touchdowns, 25 carries, like is it almost like 200 yards or something?
He had about 200 in that game. Yeah.
Like freaking crazy. The true Heisman winner in that game. I don't know, just a good game all around. And I don't know, I wanted to give Boise some shout out because they had a good year. So, and they had the real Heisman winner on their team.
Boise competing at the top just feels right for some reason. Like, I can't explain it, but just seeing Boise kind of fight at the top, I think is... I'm a big fan of it. Sure. On to number 9. And for me, it's the viral sensation of bowl season. Number 18, Iowa State versus number 13, Miami, 42-41 in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Let alone this game just being one of the funniest parts of bowl season with Christ the Pop-Tart and just all the other festivities and shenanigans that took place in this game. It might overshadow the fact that this was a really good football game. Like, darn shootout the whole time. Defenses just decided they didn't want to show up, which is what makes the best bowl games. Spoilers for maybe another one that you might see on my list. But just everything about this game was fun. Fun game. You had the Ward controversy with him sitting out of the second half. You had Rocco Becht playing through the whole game, leading his team to victory. And it was just fun. No defense. Fun vibe bowl game. Yeah, Pop-Tart Bowl was, in my opinion, 9th best football game this year.
My number 9. That's a good one. Pop-Tart Bowl is just like the bowl itself is just so chaotic and like crazy with the resurrecting Pop-Tarts from the dead. It's just all
and like wild if I remember correctly, it was pretty good last year too. So yeah, this bowl game has a track of being pretty decent.
Yeah. My number 9 is the SEC championship game.
Whoa. Whoa.
What, too low or what?
Why? This did, by the way, SEC championship game did not make my long list.
Really?
I thought the game was boring as all get out until the fourth quarter.
That's why it's on here. It's also why it's number 9. But like, I don't know, fourth quarter, like, this is why I said we have different standards. Is like when there's a game that like, I don't know, in my opinion, a game with an epic comeback is like not epic, but like,
I wouldn't call it epic.
Georgia.
I mean, Georgia was only down by
like
10.
Yeah, but then they came back and then like Trevor Etienne ran a like 4-yard touchdown in for like the last play of the game and won it for him. So that's and also it's also disappointing as hell because that was the second time they played Texas this year, and that was like, what are you doing? So yeah, it's a little disappointing because I did not want Georgia to win. But it's okay, you know? And I don't know. I like a game that, like, it comes down to the wire and then you win it. Like that's why.
Yeah, my issue with this game is just it felt so predictable the whole time. Like, every second I was watching this game, I was like, oh, yeah, Georgia's coming back. Like, it was like watching a Chiefs game. Where it's like, you know the bullshit's going to happen. And as a Bills fan, I experienced that firsthand last week.
That was awful. I watched it with a Bills fan.
Little jaded about that. Yeah, I just thought that game was really boring. It didn't really make it on my long list. Fuck whatever his name is, Carson Beck getting injured meant the second half didn't really feel very important because I didn't really care about Gunnar Stockton. They did still win. But moving on to number 8, and this is probably going to be the option no one thought would be on anyone's list. But give me the game above Sports Bowl, Pitt versus Toledo, 46-48 in 6 overtimes. Yes, Pitt makes my list twice somehow. I don't know why this game tickled my fancy so much, but it had like everything I want in a football game. Toledo incorrectly storming the field like 3 times in overtime. Just incredible bowl game silliness the whole time. No one wanted to play defense, and the offense is just, only like just randomly decided to show up. Pitt had never had a great offense. Holstein was out. They were somehow on their like 4th string quarterback. This game was just funny. It was awesome. Should it be 8 on my list? Probably not, but it's vibes. And this was just like what I want in a bowl game, which is just 2 teams not playing any defense and just having endless silliness abound. And the game above Sports Bowl had that in spades for me.
Okay, mine is like one that I don't know if is expected for me to actually like, but the ACC championship. Just again, I told you we have different standards. A game that's close, and then they win it.
You put Clemson winning the ACC championship game on your list?
Because it was a good game, and it came down to the freaking field goal, which is like, just I don't know. But yeah, I hate Clemson with a passion. Let me preface that as well. I hate them. But it was a good game, and I did watch this game, and it was fun. And I can't, with games that like it comes down to it and it's close as hell, and then they just win it on a field goal in like literally the last seconds of the game. It's good. I can't argue that it's not. So yeah, good stuff.
Once again, a game that did not make my long list, but that was simply because I kind of just wasn't watching it as closely, I think. Number 7. Boise State versus Oregon, week 2, 37-34 for Oregon. Just kind of what you said. This was a really fun football game. It had good late night feel to it. Game ended at like 2 a.m. To me, this was the Ashton Jeanty breakout game, where we saw that he could do this on a national level against big teams. I feel like we've forgotten how many questions everyone had about Oregon at this point of the year. Like, they had barely beaten Idaho in week 1, scraped away a win against Boise in week 2. They looked not great. And like, this game was just fun. Like I said it, Boise competing at the top felt right. And that just led to a really fun night game in week 2. I hope they run it back next year. I don't think they are, but I think I want to see Boise keep playing these like good teams, because I think usually you'll get a fun game out of it.
7 is week 2 Notre Dame NIU. Because what?
Notre Dame and NIU. Yeah. I thought you said Notre Dame versus IU, and I was like, that didn't happen.
No, NIU.
I almost put that game on my list.
Because it's so hilarious to me that Notre Dame paid $1.4 million for NIU to come and for them to destroy them, and then that's not what happened at all.
Man, I thought my list was unconventional, but I feel like yours is like...
Mine is off of passion.
People are going to watch this video and be like, what the these guys suck. Because our lists are just all over the place.
They're just listen, it's just how I feel, okay? But also, like, I don't know, it came out of nowhere, okay? Like, it's one of those games that, like, you're looking, like, whenever we do the next week preview, you're just like, yeah, I'm not gonna watch that game. Or, like,
it's one of those games.
I know what's gonna happen. And then it's like, first quarter, they ran what was like 83-yard touchdown in, and I was like, oh! Like,
it's one of those games where it's like you don't pay attention to it until like 5 minutes left in the game. Like, I don't think I watched any part of this game other than like the last 3 minutes.
Yeah, and then you're like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah.
It's crazy shit, which is why it's on my list.
Well, number 6 on my list from week 13, it's number 14 BYU at number 21 Arizona State. This game was kind of insane, and I feel like it's kind of slept on, but it was kind of it was close the whole time. BYU still undefeated at this point, to my knowledge, and this game just had, and then it was normal up to this point, and then the last like minute and a half happens. BYU deep in Arizona State territory, driving to win, throws an interception that Arizona State brings all the way back to the 7. The fans preemptively field rush. Kenny Dillingham gets bailed out by pulling at one of the dumbest maneuvers I've ever seen, giving BYU the ball in Hail Mary territory, which they almost complete, and it's like stopped at like the 1 yard line. The end of this game was probably the most chaotic college football I watched the whole year. And this was also just a statement win for Arizona State. Like, they were projected last in the Big 12 this year, and to this point, they had been flying under the radar relatively. They were ranked, but like hadn't had a win, like a statement win, and they got it against BYU, and they did not turn back. So that's why this game ranks at number 6 on my list.
Real fair. You're not gonna like my number 6.
Oh no.
So, number 6.
Can I guess it? Is it Alabama versus Vanderbilt?
Week 6, Alabama versus Vandy. I love a good upset always, and also at this point in time, the Alabama was number 1 in the country, and Vandy
we had just beaten Georgia the week before.
Yeah, which is crazy turnaround. Which is like, how does that work? Anyways, great game. Like literally the whole. This is one of those again, another one of those games that's like, you're like, oh, I know how it's gonna go, or at least you think you do, and then as you like check the score, you're like, oh my god. And then like, yeah, this was just good stuff, and they like close too, which is crazy. I love it. I love a good upset. Love a good close game.
This game was cursed. This game was cursed from the start when they scored like a long touchdown and then Milroe immediately threw a pick 6. We just like never recovered from that.
You're like, nah. Diego Pavia.
I don't like. This game was good, but personally, this is my least favorite. One of my least favorite.
25-year-old quarterback. Is he 25?
I don't know. Well, number 5 on my list from rivalry week, Georgia Tech at Georgia, the 8 overtime classic. My first note for this was just, what the fuck? This was one of the weirdest games of football I think I've ever watched. Georgia Tech probably controlled about 85% of this game up until the fourth quarter, where they decided they wanted to choke. And this is what I mean about Georgia being like the Chiefs. And I know I've had people that have talked to me about that being a bad take, but I don't care. They are the Chiefs, and this was the most Chiefs.
My take.
This was the most Chiefs bullshit ass game I think I've ever seen in my entire life. Georgia gets really lucky with targeting calls not getting called. Also gets really lucky with Georgia Tech just deciding they want to choke and forgetting how to play defense. And then overtime came and neither team could do anything. I think they failed like 6 2-point conversions out of like the 7 they attempted. Yeah, this is probably one of the best rivalry games that we've had in recent memory, maybe since like the Kick 6, like of just pure chaos. It was just also the fact it was a rivalry game makes it so much better. Even if I hated the fact that Georgia won and it made me really upset, still can't hate this game. That would be disingenuous. So number 5 on my list, clean old-fashioned hate.
Yeah, I have the same one at number 5.
Whoa!
Which is crazy, but I also, yeah, like you said it, everything, because like I literally was just watched this game in a hotel lobby, and it was like the most. Everyone was tired of shit, and also like really hoping that Georgia Tech could pull through, but just like, I don't fucking know. Almost setting a record for the number of overtimes you go into for a game. It's just crazy. Again, I love a good close game, and it almost was an upset. But yeah, it was just crazy good. And then yeah, Georgia Tech, like they were dropping like flies like every other play, which was crazy.
Yeah, that was insane.
What's his name? What is his name? Jesus, their quarterback.
What's his name? Oh, Haynes King.
Yeah, Haynes King, freaking carrying them. That man put in the work for that game. Yeah, just a good game. I loved it. It was great. Fantastic game. Good stuff.
Moving on to number 4 on my list. Number 5, Texas. Number 4, Arizona State. From the Peach Bowl
That's
in Atlanta.
Number 4 too. What the hell?
Yeah. Do we want to just talk about this together?
Oh my god, it was great.
This game was insane.
It was awesome.
The 16-point comeback in the fourth quarter, the touchdown on the 4th and 13 in overtime from Texas, the back-breaking interception, Scatabo like throwing up on the sidelines and like basically saying he was gonna like kill his teammates, to having one of like the best games anyone's had this whole year, like best individual performances anyone's had this whole year. Yeah. This game was
great. And then like it just coming down to like back and forth missed field goals, and you're like, oh my god.
It wasn't even back and forth missed field goals. Texas missed 2 of them in the last 2 minutes.
Yeah, and then but so did Arizona State. But Arizona State missed one too, and I was like, what is going on?
It was the end
game.
Of this game felt like a fever dream.
Yeah,
like I just like didn't believe what I was seeing.
I so wanted Arizona State to pull through because I was like, let's freaking go. It was great.
Yeah,
great game. Do
you want to move on to number 3?
3.
I'm actually making a late addition. I'm switching my 2 and my 3. So this was initially my number 2, but in the last second I decided to change it. My number 3 from week 7, number 2 Ohio State versus number 3 Oregon.
What the fuck?
I think we might have the exact same list from
I think we do, because I know
down.
what 2 you have left, I think, and those are the same 2 that I have left, so it just depends on the order.
This game was really good. This was a heavyweight, like it was billed as a battle of heavyweights, and it lived up to the expectations. It was a shootout in the first half, but turned into a defensive just struggle in the second. Oregon, as we had said to this point, had problems. No one really trusted them because they had not played very well leading up to this game. But Dillon Gabriel had his game of the season. Oregon's defense shut down Ohio State in the second half. The Will Howard gaffe at the end of the game with him just running up the middle of the field.
Craziest way to end this game of all time, because like you lost by 1 point, and B, like you slid. You ended the game just.
Ohio State was in field goal range, but then got an offensive pass interference call that pushed them back out of field goal range, which then led to Howard rushing, sliding in the middle of the field, not realizing he didn't have any time left. This game was awesome.
Disappointment on that man's face when he looked up.
Shout out to week 7, by the way. When I did this long list, this week had 5 games on it. Like, there could have been any one of just 5 games that I could have picked from this week to put in this slot. But I ended up going with Ohio State, Oregon. Just fun. Shame the Rose Bowl couldn't have gone that way, because the Rose Bowl probably would have been very high on on this list. But leading into number 2.
All right.
Number 7, Notre Dame versus number 6, Penn State from the Orange Bowl.
Ours are swapped.
Okay.
Yeah, that was my number 1.
This game, you heard us just talk about it on the podcast. This was beautiful, incredible bag of hammers, just rough, tough football.
Good.
I loved it. God, I loved it.
Great. Yeah, it was.
I understand people thinking that the first half of this game might have been pretty boring. I can understand people putting the Cotton Bowl over this, but for me, this game was for me as a football fan. Like, they did this for me and my dad, who just like the type of games that we love. It was just heavyweight fight, had such a big game feel to it, even as outside of it being the semifinal game. Crowd was incredible. No one ever had a lead but by more than like 10 points. Just the Aller disaster class the whole game. It was easily his worst game of the season, ending in that back-breaking interception with 30 seconds left to give Notre Dame the game.
Another game that ended with just like literally the field goal.
Yep.
Crazy.
Mitch Jeter, who had missed 50% of his field goals in the regular season, just turning into God this game, more or less, which is apropos given the team that we're talking about. But yeah, no, I loved this game.
My number 2, shocking. My number 2 is Alabama, Georgia, week 5.
Yep, again, that's my number 1.
Great game. Like literally, I was like, this is so sad for Georgia. Like, I hate Georgia, but I was like, wow, like, sad for them. And then they just decided to like wake up, and it was like, what the hell is going on? Yeah, just great game. I love a
You know
good
what
close
this
game.
was? This was really the inception of the Georgia Chiefs bullshit. Because this definitely just like, it felt like when they came back. I mean, I'll hold what I say because this is my number one. Which I guess good segue. My number one, Alabama Georgia, Week 5. Just the feel that this game had, just the atmosphere around it was really good. The first half was the most fun I've had watching an Alabama game since we won the national championship in 2020.
And then stress, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I kind of hated every second of the second half until the Ryan Williams touchdown, and then I hated every second after the Ryan Williams touchdown until the Zabian Brown interception. This game was really a game of two halves. Georgia looked like a peewee football team in the first half, and in the second half looked like world beaters. Not to diminish Georgia's performance, however, Bama did play pretty bad in the second half. Every single thing that we did in the first half, we just decided to not do. And this is kind of when we really should have known that this Bama team had problems, but we just kind of conveniently chose to ignore it because we beat Georgia. This was the Ryan Williams legacy game. Anything that he does from now on will be tracked to this game. The touchdown at the end is one of the most impressive plays I saw this whole year out of anyone. Bias is definitely the reason why this is probably number one on my list. But I mean, hey man, what can you say? This was the best game of the year. Beck throwing 4 interceptions, the last one to Zabian Brown. I had never felt so stressed. I had not felt this stressed watching an Alabama game since the Rose Bowl. And it was nice to see them on the other end of it. I said to my dad that it felt nice to see Alabama on the other end of a game of the year, because it kind of feels like the last few years we've always lost those. 2022 against Tennessee, 2019 against LSU, 2024 against Michigan in the Rose Bowl. So it felt nice to finally be on the other end of a game of the year where we won. And yeah, dude, everything seems so much brighter after this game was done. But that's easily my game of the year.
Fair.
Eat rocks and eat pants, Georgia. I hate you still.
We already talked about my number one, so like.
You want to put a little bit more on Notre Dame, Penn State?
Notre Dame, Penn State. This was like, I don't even know. Like, this might be a wrong take from me, but like, I wasn't really expecting Notre Dame to go to the national championship.
Well, no, because they like barely played any good teams, and
yeah, exactly.
They had struggled at the end of the season.
Yeah, so then like them coming out and like just beating Georgia, it was crazy. I didn't.
We don't need to talk about who they beat before the Georgia game.
Indiana, Georgia.
No.
Yeah, the national championship was the 2 teams that beat y'all this year, which I guess
we're good on y'all. By proxy, we're the 3rd best team in the country. That's our top 10 list. Feel free to sound off in the comments if you disagree, or just give your top 10 list.
Great season.
We'll have more content probably over the next coming weeks. I don't know what it'll be, but we'll get there when we get there. As always, thank you for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube. Follow us on Instagram. Subscribe us on YouTube. Go follow our TikTok when we make it.
Red Zone Pod.
We'll make a TikTok soon. We'll start posting on there. Everywhere on socials at the Red Zone Pod. And as always, I've been Nate Cohen.
I'm Riley Davis.
And that was not the Red Zone Podcast, the top 10 games of the year.
YouTube.
We'll see you later. Bye-bye.